like, leaving out some part of testing. So I was like doing functional, I was doing mobile testing. Automation was also something that I had good hands on. But I thought that, performance testing is somewhere I want to dabble into. And interestingly, one of the projects came to me from one of the clients, and they wanted somebody to do performance testing the entire duration. So they had multiple projects, small applications coming in, and they wanted to do different types of performance testing on it. When I say different type, I mean like load, somewhere volume, somewhere stress. So it was quite varied. I was able to, in fact, create a entire framework with the for performance testing that was that was integrated into a complete CI/CD pipeline. If you open any job site, okay, and you go to through the JD of a QA, the first thing that comes, you should know Selenium. You should know automation, irrespective of the fact whether you're actually going to be using it or not. From a, if I am, if I, this was me, like, it was me as well. Like, couple of years back, I knew this that if I didn't learn automation, I am not going to move ahead. I am not going to be valued. I'm going to be stuck in the same position no matter how good of a functional tester I am. Even if I could break an application in an unimaginable way, I would still not be valued as much as somebody who could write a piece of code and do it. Now, there are two ways to do this. So there is a good side and there is a bad side to it. There is a rush to automate everything, and it's a fad. The way it is being taught, first of all, I think, like, testing is not hyped that much into colleges and into such institutes that, the only hype is that, you have to be a developer, and that's how you're going to be like a rock star in the industry. You're missing out an important part, that you build it, it's going to come to us, we're going to performance test it, it's going to break. I am going to break it. You're going to take back the bugs, you're going to fix it, you're going to again send it to me. Again, I'm going to break it, again, I'm going to send it back to you. You the amount of to and fro is what you're missing out in the entire thing. The assumption most of the time is the level of confidence, I would say, that, they have, that, we are going to deliver it in the first time and it's going to be flawless. To a Gen AI bot or whatever you're using, right? The more clear answer is what you're going to get. The more generic you're going to be, the more generic answers you're going to get, because it is, I think so, it's built that way. It is trying to gain data from like so many sources, and it's trying to give you a concise answer, a very specific one. How specific it can be until and unless you ask it a very specific question.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Namaste and welcome to the Test Chat YouTube channel, and you're watching TesterSpeak. I'm your host, Prajesh Dev. Welcome to another episode of TesterSpeak. And with me today, I have Sandra John, who joins me from Pune. And, we are going to have a conversation on a subject that is very less touched upon in the industry. But before I get started, let me just give you some insights into who my guest is. So Sandra has been in testing for over a decade now, I think even more. She is a performance testing specialist, and that is why it is even more important and close to me, because I have been in performance testing for quite a while. I've done some amount of performance testing, not as much as Sandra would have done, but performance testing is quite close to my heart, and there are a lot of questions that intrigue me when I think of performance testing as a subject. Not only that, Sandra is a speaker in different conferences. Sandra has been a part of panel discussions, which I have been a part of, so that gives me a special insight into what she is going to talk already, but then we are going to hear it from the horse's mouth. So without any further delay, let's welcome Sandra to the show. Welcome, Sandra. How are you?
Thanks, Prajesh. I'm good. How are you?
Well, I am getting better. Things are looking up. So, yeah. I am really excited about this episode. Like I said in my introduction, I mean, performance testing has been something, which is really, really close to my heart. I've been a performance tester myself for over a decade. And I used to do performance testing, not just for web applications, but I've also done performance testing for data storage devices, which was quite interesting because it was not the ordinary load testing or the testing the throughput
Yeah.
that you do. It had a lot to do with volume testing and
Yeah.
endurance tests and all those kind of tests, which was quite fun. Now I've taken a few names, a few terminologies, but since you are the expert, I'm going to poke you. But before we get
Sure.
started, Sandra, how did your journey with testing begin?
So, yeah, first of all, thanks for the wonderful introduction. I think did quite a bit of justice there. I started my entire testing journey 12 to 13 years back. I was fresh out of college. I was hustling around, doing some internships, trying to figure out, what I really want to do. And there was an option into going into development, database, and all of this was, still, I was still getting familiar with it. At that given point of time, I did have a couple of conversations with people from the industry, and a few of them. I had done testing during my college courses, but they explained to me, what does testing actually mean to them as well on a very regular basis. And that's what it intrigued me, like you'll get paid to find out mistakes. So, so that is what actually attracted me in the first place, but it was a complete different ball game altogether. I started off with Zento in Pune. It was into real estates. I started off as a intern over there for a test engineer. I went on to become an associate, and then I moved on to QLogic 2 years later. And over there, they offered me a role of a senior test engineer after just having 2 years of experience. So they did see something good in me. I was with them for approximately around 6 years. That's when I did a lot of manual testing, automation testing. They gave me chances to work with IoT-based applications. That was a great experience altogether. But I was understanding that I am leaving out some part of testing. So I was doing functional, I was doing mobile testing. Automation was also something that I had good hands on. But I thought that, performance testing is somewhere I want to dabble into. And interestingly, one of the projects came to me from one of the clients, and they wanted somebody to do performance testing the entire duration. So they had multiple projects, small applications coming in, and they wanted to do different types of performance testing on it. When I say different type, I mean like load, somewhere volume, somewhere stress. So it was quite varied, and it did seem like an interesting project and something to expand my horizon towards. So I did take it up. I worked with them for approximately 2 years while I was in QLogic, and then I decided to move ahead. I joined ThoughtWorks for a year. Over there also, I did a lot of performance testing. I was able to, in fact, create a entire framework with the for performance testing that was that was integrated into a complete CI/CD pipeline. That was an interesting project. A year later, I did get some calls from my old bosses and everybody, and they're like, you please come back from the clients that I was working with, and they did want me to go back to them. So now I'm at ZS with them, and it's been around 2.5 years, I believe. Now I guess 3 years. It would be 3 years soon. And then so I've been in performance testing for now almost, I think so, around 6 years. uh been dabbling into different types of testings, say load, stress, volume, endurance, all types of performance testing now.
Well, that is quite an interesting journey because you've covered all the bases, if I may say.
Yeah.
You've done functional testing, you've done what they popularly call as manual testing,
Yeah.
automation you mentioned. You also touched upon mobile, and then you moved towards performance.
Yeah.
Um, so, I have a slight bit of a rant, if I can just express. You've been very passionate about performance testing, so I don't know how you will take this. But I think the industry treats performance testing as a bit of a foster child. There is this, you know, uh, feeling towards performance that no, this is not my baby. Okay, I'll look at it sometime later. Yeah, let's look at building the features. Let's look at releasing the features. Let's talk about functional testing all the time. And in functional testing, let's fight about UI, API, and all of that. And there is little or no talk of performance testing. So, what do you feel about this? I mean, this is my view, but what is your opinion on this?
So, to be honest, let me tell you this, how I see it. I see that most of the people, they treat it as a foster child. They also treat it as a checkbox to show that
Ah,
we have done it, right? So they will just do something and these are our numbers. So we have checked the box and this is performance tested. And then it goes to production, it fails, and it comes back saying that, it's not working now. My 10 users more got added and it broke. So why? And it's a cycle, it's a vicious cycle, honestly, because it just goes on and on and on. No matter how many sprints you take, no matter how many releases you give, but the debt that you create because of ignoring performance testing just keeps getting added on. So the industry does treat it in that way. And one of the reasons is also because everybody wants everything instantaneously. They want the product to be working perfectly on day one. So for that, like, the people who are working in the back, the amount of efforts that go into is humongous. And during that process, a lot of things get skipped. Sometimes, functional gets skipped, quality checks get skipped, performance gets skipped, security gets skipped, and it is quite problematic over there. So when I say, like, the checkbox, I have seen this happening so many times. Like, I'll tell you, we get a project, we want to do the performance testing. Okay, we being performance engineers, testers, whatever you call us, we sit over there, we are diligently testing every aspect. What will the client be using? How it will be using? And we come up saying that, this is working, this is not working. It will work with these many and that won't work with these many. Okay, no problem. That is a response that comes. No problem. When the issue comes, that's the time we'll fix this, or that is the time we'll deal with it. So I fail to understand that, why is that exactly happening? Because you won't do that with quality. Won't do that with QA testing, with functional. You won't do it with API testing. You won't do it with database testing because you know that if that is not working, your application is not going to work. But what people are failing to understand over here is that if you're not going to do performance testing, your application is not going to scale. That is the whole point, right? Like, you want to expand, you want more users, you want more people to come in, use your application, the experience to be seamless. And that is how, like, you keep building. If you're going to be short-sighted saying that, okay, it is working today for 100 users, I am happy. How, what is the future of that application?
uh, I think you've absolutely nailed my thoughts as well there. You've echoed the same sentiment as I have, and these questions have actually puzzled me as well. And when you talk about a working software, what do
Hmm.
you actually mean by it? So often the counter comes, oh no, I'm talking about MVP. Okay, so MVP doesn't have any consideration of performance or scalability. It's just like, okay, the basic features should work. Is that what you mean? So then according to that, MVP is no good for me.
Hmm.
So I hate it. Okay, and I'm saying this out loud. I know a lot of people are going to watch this on YouTube, but I'm going to say it out loud. The concept of MVP is rubbish, in my opinion. Okay, because it does not consider the basic fact that you are building something which is going to scale. Okay,
Right.
which you've got to start thinking about aspects like reliability.
Yeah.
Okay, people talk about SRE or site reliability engineering.
Yeah.
Now, a big facet of that is performance engineering, a big
Yes.
aspect of it. Okay, I cannot say in percentage wise as to what percentage, but I can say that it is a big chunk.
Yes.
Okay, now if that is the case, then why are you not looking at it with that focus? Is the question that I ask. So I again go back to you, Sandra, as to why do you think is that there is this conservative approach when people start thinking about performance? Is it something to do with tangible results? Is it something to do with cost? What is it, according to you?
So, I'll also touch back on the part about MVP. So, what I think or what I believe is an MVP is never an MVP or just an MVP. They always push it to for it to be usable. Because when you just deliver an MVP, they say that this is not working, that is not working, and they want you to build upon it. So it always go backs, and there are multiple versions of that MVP as well. And the worst part is that that MVP is built, the people who are built, so there are two sides of people, right? So there are the people who are building it, and there are people who are going to be using it or who are evaluating it. So the people who are building it are keeping this in mind that okay, I'm just going to show that this works, and then I'm going to improve it. I'm going to create a very nice base, and I'm going to start building on top of that. But what happens is that they go with the MVP and they're like, let's start building on top of it. So the architecture below is not really going to support what is getting built on top of that. That is one of the most important thing. Now, thinking about the people from the other side, that is where the question comes that why are they hesitant about performance testing? Uh, One thing, I think there is a very set notion that for performance testing, you need people who are experts, one thing, and something is like something related to cost as well that comes over there, because when we talk about performance testing, that time tools come into picture. As soon as a tool comes into picture, everybody wants a tool that can have like 1 million users hitting the application at the same time. But that consideration is only not there, that what is your application going to do, who is it built for, why are you building it, and what is the whole purpose of it. Everybody comes in. I'm sorry, I'm generalizing this, but I've seen this come like, our application should support 1 million users. It should support 1 billion users. But why? What is the purpose of your application? Is it going to have that many users? Are those users all going to come at the exact same time? Now, if Amazon comes and says that, I still understand that that is a reasonable demand. But like, if somebody is just starting a small e-shopping app, right, for a local
No,
business.
even for Amazon, 1 million is. Don't you think it's too much? Even for something
It
like the
is.
big billion days or
It
whatever.
is. You have to think from point of concurrency. Like at
Correct.
a moment, how many users are actually going to come in? Your application just has to be scalable enough to do it. But when people think from testing point of view, from performance testing, the first thing comes in, how am I going to generate that much amount of load? Which is a valid question, but it never happens at one go, is what they fail to understand over there. So it is
Hmm.
always a gradual process. Now, when any application's performance testing is started, let me give you an example. Even if the application is going to see like, say, the worst case condition when 1 million users are going to be there concurrently. I will, as a performance engineer, I will never target 1 million users on day one because I know it will not support. We'll always build it up. We go with 20% of it, if not 20%, less than that. And then we start moving up on the ladder. We start building up chunk on chunk. And because they think that this is more of a time consuming, cost inducing process, it is more of an afterthought at that point that, okay, first let our application get there where it is going to have that many users, then we'll start worrying about it.
Well, you've used a very interesting word, afterthought, and it is my favorite word when it comes to testing itself.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have openly said it in multiple forums and in I don't know in how many blogs or posts I've said this, that the industry thinks in such a way that testing comes as an afterthought to the industry, and aspects such as performance, security, scalability, etc., come as an afterthought of that afterthought.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That, oh, when the customer has a problem,
You'll then
then
fix it.
everybody is like, oh, we should have thought about this. You know, like for example, the customer is having issues if the website is not loading on time, then there is a problem. If the customer sees that, okay, customer has suddenly 500 new users and the site is crashing, then there is a problem. Okay, when the customer says, okay, you know what, I do not have enough infrastructure, then there is a problem. So why wasn't all of this thought early, thought sooner? So is something that even I keep wondering. And then you use that word afterthought, so I was like, yeah, that's the right word. Now we've spoken about the problems that we have with the industry. I want to look at the other side of the coin, which is the testers themselves.
Mm.
Okay. Now, when we talk about learning testing or doing anything, there is this mad rush for learning tools, be it Selenium or Playwright. But there is very little to no voice talking about learning performance testing.
Mm.
Now, why do you think that is? Is it because of the industry, the way of thinking of the industry, or is it something to do with the way we are taught testing?
It's perception. Now, why I say it is perception. First of all, a lot of first of all, let's think about why everyone is in a rush to learn tools.
Hmm.
If you open any job site, okay, and you go through the JD of a QA, the first thing that comes, you should know Selenium, you should know automation, irrespective of the fact whether you're actually going to be using it or not. From a if I am if I this was me, like it was me as well. Like couple of years back, I knew this that if I didn't learn automation, I am not going to move ahead. I am not going to be valued. I'm going to be stuck in the same position no matter how good of a functional tester I am. Even if I could break an application in an unimaginable way, I would still not be valued as much as somebody who could write a piece of code and do it. Now, there are two ways to do this. So there is a good side and there is a bad side to it. There is a rush to automate everything, and it's a fad. I mean, everything, every small click needs to be automated. Why? You need to ask yourself that why is it needed to be done? Is it actually we are going to use it or not? But there is also another part to it where you're doing the same task repetitively. I know this for my every release, these 10 things are going to be tested. And my releases are happening every 2 weeks. Or I'm in a sprint based model where it is happening, or it's in a CI/CD based model where everything is tested and every 2 days something is being pushed to production. So in that case, yes, you do need something as a fail-safe mechanism to make sure that things are not breaking. It does make sense over there. But is that what the entire industry is doing? Is everyone pushing to production in 2 days or on a daily basis? Is everyone having a CI/CD pipeline? You're not. You're investing your money, time, resources into creating these humongous automated. I was having a discussion with somebody the other day, and I asked them, how many scripts have you created? And they told me 10,000 automation scripts. My first question was, how are you maintaining it? No, we have a team who does it. I'm like, great, but how is the team maintaining it? How do you know what is relevant, what is not relevant? How you know that, this is what needs to be discarded, this is what needs to be updated? You can't make that differentiation. That is how automation becomes a fad, because everyone is talking about it. Everyone wants to do it. I want to do it. When I'm not doing this, I want to do that. Because even I have this notion that, when everyone is talking about it, that automation is great. And like, it is a fear of missing out. It's FOMO.
Mm.
Because everyone has this feeling that if I am not going to do this, I am not going to get paid. I am not going to get a good paying job. I'm not going to move up the ladder. Even if I get paid, I won't get promoted. I'm going to be stuck at the same position for eternity. And nobody wants to be in that situation. So rather than trying something new, like say like performance testing or security testing, everyone is, just moving in the same direction, manual automation or functional, then automation. But how relevant it is, I think so that is being missed out. Now, another part for performance as well is that, because there is demand for it. I won't say that there is no demand at all. There are companies that are genuinely looking out for performance test engineers who are looking out for like, but how visible is that? How frequently do young test engineers know that there are such open positions? And even when there are, sometimes they get into this notion that, okay, I have to just create this script, run it, this is what I'm going to get, and then what am I going to do? The point is this, that, performance testing is not limited to just running a script, getting the number, and saying it's working or not. It goes beyond that. You get to understand AWS. If you're working in a cloud-based infrastructure, you understand that. If you're not working in a cloud-based infrastructure, if you're working on on-premises, you get to understand that. You're working with databases, you're working with APIs. You have to basically understand the entire architecture to be a performance test engineer, which is way more than uh, functional QAs or automation QAs get into, because most of that is black box based testing. There they do not, where they have very little to none insight into what is exactly happening inside the application or how the architecture is being built. Whereas with with performance testing, it does go beyond that. You have to understand, like, what is the resources that are being used, how they are being scaled up, how they've been set up, whether the size that are being used, is that enough or not? And you need to understand each thing that comes along with it. So yeah, it does go beyond that, but that is what I think the visibility part is quite less over here. Because of that, not many people enroll for it, but even when they enroll, they're quite confused. Because as soon as they enroll, the first question is, which tool should I start with? And that is where they are, not. I actually wrote it in one of my blogs as well, that it is not the tool that you start with. You have to first start understanding the basics. Like, what are you trying to performance test and what are you going to get out of it? The end goal has to be clear over there. Only then you're going to be able to understand, like, whether you want to actually go ahead with this tool or that tool. So, perception is something that I think is very prevalent in creating, like, these different streams within the industry itself.
Well, it's quite a common sight, especially with testers, that they want to start running before they learn how to walk.
Yeah.
Okay, or if I can say it in a different way, they want to write sentences even before they learn the alphabet.
Yeah.
Okay, and for writing sentences, they are not even thinking about writing proper sentences. They are thinking whether I should use a pen or a pencil or a sketch pen or a, or maybe a keyboard and straight away start typing. Okay. So it's the tool that is making more noise in their head rather than getting to know, okay, I should start first, understand, okay, A, B, C, D, and
Yeah.
then I should understand, okay, the combination of these letters in the alphabet will give me words, and putting the words in a proper sequence, using the right grammar will give me a good sentence.
Yeah.
None of that. Okay, straight away jump and start thinking of writing sentences and go for it. So that's quite common. And, yes, you are absolutely right. Perception does play a big role. Now, I want to highlight one more thing here. And since we are talking about perception and how the industry looks at performance testing, how do the testers look at it? Um, what is your thought on how on the way testing is being taught and performance is being taught to people? For example, people do ISTQB certification. If you pick up ISTQB certification foundation course, performance has a very small mention of it. There's a very small mention of performance testing. Okay, so is it that it is overgeneralized, or things are oversimplified, or again, this perception has crept into the certifying bodies that is creating this sort of you know, a blank spot, if I may use that term, as far as performance testing is concerned.
Right. So I did my ISTQB foundation level certification quite some time, years or some years back.
Me too, yeah. We've
So
been there.
yeah. So so I remember this during my college days as well. When I was doing my masters, I did it in MCM. We had like subjects for 4 different languages, and then we had testing as one of the
Mhm.
subject. And in that testing, there was one chapter on performance and one chapter on security.
Yeah.
And I remember it was right at the end where there were few pages of it, like, 4 to 5 pages, I believe. And same in the ISTQB book as well. There would be like, one section on it, and there would be one question, I believe, that comes in the entire paper or something. So the way it is being taught, first of all, I think like, testing is not hyped that much into colleges and into such institutes that, the only hype is that, you have to be a developer, and that's how you're going to be like a rock star in the industry. Trust me, I've seen many QAs who are like really good rock stars and like who are like really great people. And they've got some really good insight on how things work. So the way it is taught, first of all, it's already downplayed at a level where students can actually intake what this entire world of development, testing, and everything is. And then when it comes to like, these professional level certifications over there also, it's not performance testing is all not given that much of importance. It will be told that, these are the 5 types of testing, this, these are the definitions of it, this is what will happen, this is response time, throughput, threshold, that's it. So you have those definitions, that's it. There are no use cases. There are no white papers. There are no actual cases that happen in the industry. There are so many news articles that come in where, applications have broken down because of load. None of those get introduced. I don't know about the current condition, whether they've been introduced or not, but at least when it was my time, that time we had nothing of it. So so there are so just books or college or courses are not the only mediums that you learn from. Even what are happening in your day-to-day life, like your Twitter is down, Facebook is down, Instagram is down. People go crazy. Instagram is down, Twitter will be blown. Instagram is down, and every tweet over there, the second tweet is Instagram is down. So you're getting it, how it impacts, like, if something is not working, how it impacts the population today. The gen means the everyone is on some app at some point of time. And if that app is not working, banking app down. I remember on Saturday, I believe. So HDFC was, I use HDFC. So they had some sort of a, planned maintenance, and it was down. My life stopped because I couldn't do anything. And maybe that was a planned maintenance, but even in such cases, sometimes when these applications go down because of performance, you are not able to do anything. And this is really downplayed in the way we are teaching everybody. Like, the importance of how important a performant app is. Any application that is not working quickly, instantly. We want everything instantly, but we don't want to do anything about it or learn about it or contribute to its growth. So it's sort of contradicting in a way. If, more people are told about it at a younger age, taught about it, explained more, given more use cases, maybe the attraction towards performance might also increase.
So you mentioned some very interesting points there. Okay, and I know this is bad English, the use of very, but I like to say it like that. Okay, putting more emphasis on how corrupted things are, or how disastrous things are when it comes to performance testing. And I'm saying this from my own experience, is because you spoke about syllabus at the college level and things like that. I had the opportunity of meeting somebody from eighth semester information technology, Mumbai University.
Okay.
Okay, and I asked, so what does your syllabus look like? So she very proudly explained what the syllabus. And I said, what about testing? Yeah, that's a subject. Yeah, that's an elective. We can opt out. So I said, so have you opted in or out? Well, almost the entire class has. I think one person has opted in. So, and then I smoked and said, lucky him. And she was like, why? I said, because he's going to outshine all of you guys. Because you guys have gotten into the developer rat race already. I want to become a developer. Oh no, but testing has no future. She said to me, and I said, do you know what I do? And she said, what? I said, I've been doing testing for 25 years now, and there is no future. So she was taken aback, but then that is the state, and that's how students normally react. Okay, in the colleges, if you ask them, they really want to be developers,
Yeah.
because testing is considered to be a low skilled job, and people do not have any idea that you could actually specialize in something like performance testing and do wonders to your career.
Yeah.
Okay, and on that note, I want to bring to your attention, or rather bring our focus to another terminology which is quite prevalent when it comes to performance, and that is performance engineering. Okay, so we would like to learn from you, how different is performance engineering from performance testing? Or are they the same thing? Same wine beans served in a different bottle.
So in my mind, it is the same thing. I consider it the same thing. I won't go with the term, like, I think they're just used interchangeably. Engineering sounds a little bit fancy. It sounds a little bit like mysterious and, like, very, very good. Like, something they're doing something out of the world maybe over there. But it's basically this, that what I also look at it from a lot of people's perspective, that when people say performance testing, it's mostly where you are just running the test and giving the result, and you're not putting in any analysis or anything. And when you say engineering, you're going behind the scene, you're seeing what is happening over there, you're finding areas for optimizations, you're gathering that detail, you're putting in a complete analysis report together and saying that, okay, see, this does not work, you need to change this, you need to make it this. Then this does not work, you need to change this, you need to make this, or you need to downscale this, you need to upscale this. That is where I think, like, that those two terms come interchangeably as per what I can gauge from the industry, at least till now. So when people say like you're a performance engineer, okay, so you're going back, you're looking at all of the resources, their utilizations, how they're behaving, you're trying to figure that out, and then you're trying to give a very optimized solution. Performance testing, okay, you're looking at the UI, you are recording something, or you're like, creating a few scripts, you're running those scripts, and then you're saying that from the UI itself, like, from the black box perspective, that, this is working and this is not working. So I think that is where that differentiation comes in. But in my mind, it is like, it is not very different for me, because I think, like, with all of the people that I work with, be it somebody who has just joined the workforce in performance testing with me, or somebody who has been working, like, say, for 17 years above me, I guess all of us are doing, we all start from the basic. We start from point one, and then we go to point 10. We never jump, like, just because I'm a performance engineer, I am not going to be doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to do 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That does not happen. I start from point one and then I go to point 10. So that is how the entire thing, because only then you're going to understand the entire picture. If you're not going to do point one, you're never going to understand what is happening at point six. You're never going to get to point 10 then. So you have to understand the whole picture. You have to understand what your UI does. You have to understand what your backend does. You have to understand what your database does. What's your API doing over there? What resources are there? How is your browser behaving? Your mobile reacting to it? You have to understand everything. So if you're going to do everything, how is it different? How is testing different? How is engineering different? It's just, I guess it's just, those terms are just used interchangeably according to me.
Well, so is it similar to testing and QA? Okay, QA is glorified tester. So
I
performance engineer is a glorified performance tester.
I did read your post about it. So I'm not sure how controversial that is yet, but I would say this, that, both of them are interchangeable for me. I don't think that, QAs and testers, it's really wrong to, classify people that way. See, we are already a smaller part. We are a very limited resource. And now if you're going to start discriminating between us, it's going to get even less. So I think that, everyone should be inclusive and included in that. Every tester should be given the opportunity to become an engineer in that way, if that makes somebody feel good about it.
Well, what I have learned over the course of my 2.5 decades journey in testing is that the industry just loves jargons.
Yeah.
Okay, they love jargons. They absolutely love jargons. And what happens is, when you have a set of people working in a company, so after some time, the HR starts scratching their head and it's like, okay, we have to add variety. So, we have to give promotions to people. So, you know what? We'll create new rules. They'll basically be the same thing, but, we'll add a fancier term for that. And that's what they're going to be. So, testers became QA.
One
Okay.
more over
And
there is software development engineer and test,
yeah, yeah,
SDETs.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So testers became QA. Okay, so for some years QA, and then they said, you know what, QA is superior because they do a lot more process-oriented things. And you will see a lot of LinkedIn posts defending that thing,
Yeah.
that claim, that saying that, QA does also the process part of it. They are not just finding bugs. I'm like, come on, testers also do the process part. It's not that something that you're doing. Then some years later, okay, so the whole quality assurance thing happened, and then after some years, now it is quality engineering. So
Hmm.
now it is no longer QA, it is QE.
Yeah.
Okay, and so another fancy thing. So like I very openly say this, that we all love wine, old wine in the same the same old wine in different bottles.
Bottles.
Okay, so you just bottle it up differently and think, oh wow, this is, this is amazing, this is delicious. From where did you get it? Nobody realizes just because the packaging is different, just
Absolutely.
because the way it sounds is different. So as that you mentioned, okay, software development, engineering, and test. Nobody will go back and look at the history of how the SDAT term came, and how there is a development engineer in that, okay, and how there is a test word in that. So people just go crazy when they hear, oh, SDAT, oh wow, you must be doing such a cool job.
Exactly. It it again comes back to perception, like how people perceive you. What are you saying? What is written in that LinkedIn title of yours, and what you're putting in over there. Like, I am a I have I've read so many verbs over there. I think I get introduced through new verbs reading just the titles in there. Yeah,
Oh
it's
well,
just fancy terms.
yeah, just like sorry, I mean, I don't want to disrespect anybody, but people would say hairdresser instead of barber, and a fashion designer instead of a tailor. So things like that. It sounds cool, it sounds cool. We're
It
not
does.
disrespecting any profession as such, but that's how things go, and especially in the tech industry, if you see, there is people are scared of being stagnant in a
Yeah,
particular role,
yeah,
and industry leaders do recognize that, HR teams do recognize that, and one way is to get your mind off that stagnancy. And to get your mind off that stagnancy, even if you're in the same position doing the same stuff, they will say, okay, we have a promotion for you, some extra money, a fancy title, but doing the same stuff over and over again. Okay, so at least you're mentally soothing down the person, and massaging the ego very nicely.
yeah.
So going on the discussion around performance a little more, I have heard you, I have read your blogs. You've been advocating very vocally for the fact that performance testing can be started at any stage during what we call as the product development life cycle, or software development life cycle, or anywhere in the DevOps loop, or whatever you might want to call it. Why is it that the industry doesn't understand this, Sandra? It is a basic, isn't it?
It is. And it is true. We can start performance testing basically at any given point. Again, one of the reasons is what I feel is they don't want to invest money or time into that at that given juncture. Because what's playing is that let's get this chunk out, then we'll do it. Let's get this chunk out and then we'll do it. But what I have been talking about is that we need to start at any given point of time. And the sooner we do it, the better. The more it happens at a designing phase, the more you're going to be able to understand what are the challenges you can face when something goes wrong. Now, I'll give you a very good example of this. One of the projects that I was working on, all right, uh, there were a couple of the project was working, and there was this product or an application or something, and the design team or the art team, they wanted to introduce a new tool that did a similar job that was being done, but they wanted to integrate this new tool into it because it can do a slightly better job than what the older one was doing. And the older one didn't look that appealing, and it did not. I mean, there were different reasons as well along with it, but the rush to get that tool integrated was so much that once the tool got integrated, it completely meshed into the application. And there were so many challenges from perspective of how the tool was working and how it handled performance that it took quite a lot of time to stabilize it. And still, like, there came a point where um, the team was not very confident about it. So, but if there was a step back, if they had taken a step back, this is the tool. This is the tool we want to replace it with. What are the repercussions going to be? Should we even be thinking about integrating it? Should we actually have it? Is it a necessity? Will it be performant? And considering that application's entire ecosystem or the use case was around performance, it was something related to that, that should have been a very crucial consideration, which did not happen. And a lot of time, effort, money went into correcting that part. So these things do happen. But if performance testing is taken into consideration at the design part itself, where before the development is started, you can actually save on a lot of effort in terms of time and money. That is what I have been trying to advocate for a pretty long time. And that is not only for performance testing, I think even for quality purposes. If you think about it, take a step back, think how your entire application is going to fit together and what all other possible things that could go wrong, what all could be that need to be taken into consideration. It would actually help a lot of people. But because there is a rush that we will have to get this, there is a release date. There's a release date that is set, and we have to get it out on that date. So first we will integrate it, then we'll do the performance testing. Or first we'll integrate it, then we'll do the quality testing. You're missing out an important part, that you build it, it's going to come to us, we're going to performance test it, it's going to break. I am going to break it. You're going to take back the bugs, you're going to fix it, you're going to again send it to me. Again, I'm going to break it, again, I'm going to send it back to you. The amount of to and fro is what you're missing out in the entire thing. The assumption most of the time is the level of confidence, I would say, that they have, that we are going to deliver it in the first time and it's going to be flawless and no issues are going to come. There are not going to be a single quality issue. There's not going to be a single performance issue. No security threats, nothing. Everything is going to be smooth. And this to and fro is not going to happen. So I don't know whether it is just, that positiveness is there, or that, they're thinking that it is not going to happen. It's just not going to happen to them. It happened to somebody else, but it won't happen to me. My application is just going to go smooth. So that is one of the reason I think, people don't start it pretty well enough. But we need to be a little bit more realistic about this, because the amount of let's even keep time aside. The amount of money that goes into fixing performance related issues are pretty high, because you have to run those tests that many amount of time. But if something is considered way before, like say in a design phase, in a development phase, it is integrated with fail safes to make sure that performance will not be impacted. And that is taken into consideration at that point. I'll need to run one performance test, or max to max say two, for a consistency check. And I know that, okay, I'm confident saying that, okay, this is working now. Now you can go ahead and release this. You're imagining the amount of time and the money that we have saved in the process, compared to the point where you don't give it a thought. There are performance degradations in the application. Multiple runs of performance tests need to be performed, which are costly, because it does utilize your resources, and it is going to, drive up your bill. Once that happens, you're going to have to pay it. And then, the entire development cost also increases. So, the risks are not weighed well, is what I would say. They're not considering the amount of risks that are going to go into, if you're not going to take performance into consideration before you actually start development or you do your design at that phase.
I think that's absolutely well put by you. I mean, I've also seen and I've also been advocating for this enough that, the cost of poor quality is way higher than any investment that you're making towards building new features or anything like that. So if you really want to save cost, and build something really nice, then strengthen the quality.
Yeah,
And if you are ignorant about things such as performance or security or user experience for that matter, then you are shooting yourselves on your own foot. Okay,
exactly.
and there's no way you will be able to walk after that. Okay, forget about walking smoothly. You're not even going to walk after that. So that brings to my next question, and that is again perhaps related to perception. But I'd like to hear from you. Okay, so there is this whole discussion about functional and non-functional tests. Okay, let's talk about performance. Is it really non-functional?
It is application to application based. Now, why I say this is because mostly it is non-functional. It is where uh, you are looking at parameters outside the purview of your just functional test cases. But why I say there are exceptions is because there might be a few applications that are volume heavy, that are extremely user heavy. So in a way, the function of that application becomes that it has to support that amount of volume or that amount of users. So that is where it becomes a functional case. Uh, but mostly it is non-functional, where it goes beyond what you're normally testing, where you're testing your positive test cases, negative test scenarios, all of that. So it goes beyond that. It goes more towards checking and validating how your resources are behaving, right? And how it is going to behave under different, uh, you know, duresses, like, different stress that is being put on it, and how it is behaving and, responding to it. Is it responding in a positive manner, negative manner? And then you take it forward from there. Why I say that, at some applications perspective, it might be a little bit more functional because that application has built itself to say support that many number of users. So if your application is not supporting that many users, it is functionally failing. If it is working for one user, but it is going to fail for 10 users, it does not work. It is not functional for the 10th user. Again, it does overlap somewhere, but mostly non-functional performance testing does come into non-functional area itself, I would say.
Yeah, this was more of a question for my own clarification because I've always had this, and I've always, and you're right. I mean, applications where they are more user intensive or volume heavy. It's more to do with the functional aspect of it,
Yeah.
and that's where and because the work that I did with performance testing more often than not was you know very heavy on the functionality. I used to wonder why they call it non-functional testing because my functionality is getting tested relentlessly.
Hmm.
Yes, there is a heavy volume of data being transacted.
Hmm.
Yes, there are a lot of transactions that are happening during the course of that entire functionality being uh, worked upon over and over again. So that's why my perception was that performance was also
Mhm.
should come under functional testing. But then, of course, I had read something written by you,
Hmm.
and there I got this clarification. I was like, no, this needs to go out to the greater audience as well, and I need to stop confusing people with, with my own perception. So I thought, let me just put this to you. So okay, so we have been talking about performance for a while. Let's not discuss testing for a bit. I want to ask you something different. So, if I am not wrong, you are based out of Pune.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, have you lived in Pune all your life, or how has it been?
Uh, I had a very interesting life actually. So I was born abroad in Kuwait. Uh,
Hmm.
if you've heard of the 1990 Gulf War and you've seen the movie
Hmm.
Airlift, uh, I somewhat reached India that way. Means I don't think Akshay Kumar was a part of it, but uh, my parents did go through multiple Iraq, Jordan, different countries to get me back home. And I was a six months old baby at that time. So I've heard that
Oh,
story multiple times. Then we were in India for some time. Then my parents went back to Kuwait. So I did back and forth till my 10th standard in India, Kuwait. And then after 10th, I think I've been in India. That is since 2004. And then a couple of years later, my mom went abroad. I was living by myself. I completed my education by myself, which was again a very great experience. I got to be independent at a very young age. I learned a lot about responsibilities, banking, getting to move around by myself. So that was a good thing. Then I have a younger brother and a younger sister. After a couple of years, they came to live with me and they were completing their education. So I helped them see through that too. And then, yeah, I've been in Pune since 2004. Yeah, my college, post graduation, first job. Even in fact, when I got married 5 years back, I had thought that, I would move to Panvel. But God had other plans and he brought my husband to Pune. So we are in Pune.
oh well. No, so yeah, I was as a part of my research, I was looking at it and I was like, wait a minute, there is something more. And then I recalled that, in one of the previous conversations you had mentioned Kuwait. So I said,
Yeah.
okay, maybe there is a twist in the tale. So
Yeah.
no, no, maybe you could use the airlift angle in your story.
Yeah, I should,
The Akshay
right?
Kumar, the Akshay Kumar thingy. Okay, so Pune, yes. Okay, so Pune is. It's safe to say that Pune is your favorite city then.
Oh, yes, definitely. Hands down.
And what is your favorite food spot in Pune then?
I
There are
have
quite a few I
many.
know.
I have so many. I think George Restaurant is one of them.
What do you
So
like to eat there?
they have the some. Sorry, I'm a non-veg, so a non-vegetarian
Why
person.
sorry
So
about it? Me too. So
yeah, so I go there for the rotisserie chicken. They make really good ones. Then I have a lot of spots which are quite local where I live in Khadki. It is a small area, and I've been over here since my childhood, you could say. So I have like these little spots in here itself where you get amazing misal and you get good vada pav and dosa and all like that. And then we have these old restaurants in Pune. So Pune has so many old restaurants. It has
yeah.
Marzorian, where you get the most amazing chutney sandwiches, cupcakes. Then there is Kayani Bakery, where you get amazing plum cakes and Shrewsbury biscuits. We have so many areas in the Pate. So there's this place which is also called, it specializes in these puff pastry pattises. So it's called Pattiswala. Like we go there as well. So yeah, I'm a big foodie, so I keep roaming around. I have multiple favorite places, not just one.
So all the places you mentioned. I mean, I've been on and off to Pune. When I was working in India back in 2015, I was working in a company where they had an office in Pune and one office in
Okay.
Mumbai. And so I was based out of Mumbai, and every week, twice I had to go to Pune. So
Oh,
Pune, when I go to Pune, I had to find a spot to eat, and I would look for spots. And so Kayan, you mentioned, I mean, that was one of the spots, and of course, cannot miss the plum cakes from
oh,
there. Okay, and so, and of course, I have eaten at some other places, which of course you did not mention. So, the places that you mentioned are now on my list, and I'm going to visit them.
definitely.
Yeah, okay. So, coming back to performance testing, and now I want to go to a different dimension to it. Okay. You touched upon the fact that, performance testing not being done early or things like that. But do you think as a fresher, Okay, I can start thinking about my career in performance testing.
Yes, definitely. As a fresher as well, there are multiple companies who are giving chances to people to join their workforce in the scope of performance testing. So you can definitely think about it. And if I was a fresher, I would definitely think about it in today's day and age, because it is something that is not just coming up, but it is there, and it is there quite prevalently. It is just that, because the other streams are so much talked about, and this one isn't, that's why it does not come to the forefront. But there are multiple companies that are doing a lot of testing in terms of hardware, software, and now with AI coming into picture, in a lot of other forums where, like, performance testing is definitely going to come to the forefront. So there is the job scene will evolve a bit, where you're going to have to have a lot of skills that not just means earlier having just manual testing or automation testing was enough, but now the skills are definitely going to be evolving. So I think as a fresher, I would definitely consider performance testing, because also because most of the applications are cloud based nowadays, so there's a lot of scope over there as well. There are a lot of IoT based applications that are present. Your smart watches, you've got smart rings, I don't know what else is coming, wearable technology, your all household gadgets are up in that. And yeah, so all of these things, and they all have different flavors of performance in it, I would say, right? So it is not the traditional one where you're sitting and you're just testing something on your laptop or something like that, or you're doing that much. It's not restricting anymore. It is way beyond than just a small section of what work you used to do. It is not just, web applications, UI applications anymore. It is way beyond that also. So as the fields and as the scope is expanding itself, the scope for performance testing is also expanding itself. So if you're starting at this given point of time, you're going to definitely get a lot of chance to learn, to understand, and to upskill yourself over there.
So today, if I want to begin my journey with performance testing, what should be the learning roadmap that I should take?
So one thing that I believe, whenever any sort of software related work that you want to do, whether it is development, testing, anything, you need to know your basics. So that comes from your architecture, your different application layers, network layers, everything. Okay, so you need to know how your applications are built. Where does your database go? Where does your API go? So first I would start there. So I would start, laying a foundation for my work. Once I have done that, then I would, so if I'm thinking of performance testing, I'll start learning about the types of performance testing and read about use cases that have happened and that have been researched upon, tested by, their results have been published, and how they are being published specifically, like what are the key conclusions that come out when a performance testing is done. That will give me more insight into stating good examples when I am trying to think about them. And that is when I get those examples, I can build use cases and then decide, like, what I need to now start working on. And tools are endless. There are multiple. There's JMeter, there's Load Runner, there's Gatling, there's K6. And honestly, if you're able to just write 10 lines of code and you have a good machine, you can just run it by yourself. You might not even need a tool for that matter, right? So there are a lot of ways you can do it, but you just need to start at the basic. You need to start understanding where performance is used and where the testing is done, why it is done, how it is being done, and how is it being set up. Once you understand that layer, then building on top of that becomes a bit more easier.
That's interesting that you spoke about tools. Okay, and it's a quite descriptive roadmap that you gave. Coming to tools, a question just popped up in my head. Let's say, for example, you know, I'm an SDET, okay? The famous SDET, okay? And I am bored of the fact that, people are only giving me manual testing work at my job. Can I build a tool for myself for performance testing?
Can you build a tool? Why not? Why not?
How should I do that?
So here's the thing, right? When you talk about performance testing, what is it that you're imagining? You have to understand that I am trying to build users. I'm trying to build virtual users. What are virtual users? They are basically threads in your entire CPU. You're just utilizing them individually. So you just need to know how to concurrently start those executions. That is the point that you need to understand. You need to understand like what you're trying to do, the basic point. I want to run 10 users at the exact same time or 10 things to happen at the exact same moment. And performance testing is not just limited to building load. Let me clarify that too. For me, performance testing is related to volume. So I have an application say that, it has the feature to upload a file. If I want to do performance testing, I will build a file that has got, say, 1 million rows and try to upload it. It is
Yeah.
still performance testing. Because you're an SDET, you're not limited. Or because you're a QA, you're not limited. You have to know what is the goal that you're trying to achieve. If you want to break your application, how is it that you want to break it? That is how a QA's mind works, right? Like, how I want to break it. Once you know that goal, you're only going to be able to build towards it. And also, the point over here is that, if you can build a tool, that was your question, right? So now with AI into picture, I'm still repeating myself. I'm not advocating it at all. I did have a couple of discussions before this, but you definitely have an assistance now to help you to write few lines of code. So why not use it to your advantage?
Great, and you just brought me to the next question. How has generative AI changed your life?
It has not changed it a lot, but yeah, it has definitely made a few tasks easy. I use it to write a few emails. I might, use it to summarize a few calls, right? I don't start taking meeting notes now. I just, start it and then, I have all my meeting notes at the end of it and then I review it and then I'm just good for that. Other than that, generative AI, I did use it to write a couple of codes. I had already written a few. I wanted them to be enhanced a bit more to make it more robust to, uh, tweak functionalities here and there. So I used that. Today only I had to compare two humongous JSONs, and those JSONs were such that I can't upload it on the uh, JSON validators that are there online, right? Because it's got some sensitive information, and so I wrote a piece of code, and I just used the AI to bridge in a few gaps, and I was able to test it all like in few seconds on my laptop itself, and it did the job for me. So it has definitely it's more of an assistance. Again, it is only as good as you are, I would believe. I don't think it is going to be a replacement for anybody, but it is only going to be a replacement from by the people who are good at using it.
Excellent, excellent. Now, so you mean to say, can AI not do performance testing for you?
It can do, but do you want it to do? What will it do? It will just generate, like, say, some amount of load. Any tool can do it for you. Can it do the analysis part? Until and unless you plug it in everywhere. And then comes the part of security. Because you're plugging it in everywhere, it has got access to your information, which I don't think most of the companies are going to be comfortable with. You have,
Absolutely.
yeah, you have to understand that part. Everyone is into this that, we want Gen AI, but how how robust is its application until and unless it is sold as a individual piece to you? It can't, and they won't, because the whole purpose of AI is this, that it is able to gather data from multiple places, then build on it.
So this particular point actually brings me to the discussion that we were having shortly before the recording began.
Yeah,
And, so when we look at output from generative AI, we say, okay, you know what? Give me a bunch of test cases. It gives me a
yeah,
bunch of test cases, and it will say in one line, okay, check the performance. So do you think training the generative AI models, the LLMs, uh, will improve the focus on performance testing, and will it be able to assist you in your performance testing better down the road?
right. So I'll give a counter to it. I did test the Gen AI for this part. So what I had done is I didn't ask it to give me test cases. I asked it to give me performance test cases for a very specific use case. And it was able to give me, like, a few lines of it. And it gave me, like, few very good ones as well. Now, as I mentioned a while back, it is not how good the AI is. It is how well you are talking to it, or you are trying to gain information from it. So you have to be good to get that much amount of information from it. So if you're going to ask for it, like, give me a test case, set of test cases. Performance testing is a checkbox. But if you think about it, if you go to somebody like, who has been, I don't know. I'm just assuming here, but somebody like, some QA manager or someone like, QA architect or somebody who has not been dabbling into performance testing a lot or into security testing a lot, and who's been doing a lot of manual and automation, and ask them that, I want to write test cases. So what all should I do? They're also going to give you the same answer. Check performance, check security. So it is about the part that, what you want to gain out of it. The more we train it, the more we teach it. Now, again, when I gave the use case that, give me the performance test cases for this particular use case, there are few ones which were irrelevant, which did not make sense to me. So I asked it to update it, change it. Like, okay, this is not the one that I want. Maybe change it to this. And considering this point, add more two test cases. It was able to generate more and more valid ones, which I could actually use. So the more specific, or the more clear you are with your ask to a Gen AI bot or whatever you're using, right? The more clear answer is what you're going to get. The more generic you're going to be, the more generic answers you're going to get, because it is, I think so, it's built that way. It is trying to gain data from like so many sources, and it's trying to give you a concise answer, a very specific one. How specific it can be until and unless you ask it a very specific question.
I think you've emphasized the point that Rahul Verma made in his episode of TesterSpeak about AI. And he also said, that if you know the answers already, AI will be able to help you better, which means that you know specifically what you're looking for, and you talk to the AI in that fashion, and it will respond to you accordingly.
Yeah,
And like you said, if you keep the questions very generic, the prompts not so clear, you're going to get a similar response from the model. Because at the end of the day, it reacts to what you are trying to feed into it. So it's like garbage in, garbage out. Okay,
exactly.
if you want good stuff out, then you have to give it good stuff. You have to be intelligent enough to ask the right thing.
So I'll give you this example. So one of my friends, uh, just a colleague or somebody, so she was struggling with, so with people not means either taking it not rightly from her or something like that. So she created a small section with the AI bot where, like, she made it an alter ego. And she would say that, you know what, I am saying this, but now I want you to respond in a person who is, say, an alpha male and who would say it in this way, but people would not get offended. And that, oh my God, the responses that came, they were really great. I think she even used a couple of them.
Wow.
So it's great. I mean, it's definitely there. Why not use it? Why turn a blind eye towards it and say that no, it's not going to work, it is just going to go away? It is here to stay. Everyone is using it. So why turn a blind eye towards it? It's just that you have to evolve with it. You
Yeah,
cannot keep doing the same thing that you were doing earlier. You have to know what you want, how you want it, and exactly what is it that you're looking for.
right. Well, Sandra, we've been talking for quite some time. So there's time for one last question for you. What is the final advice that you would like to give to testers, especially when it comes to performance testing?
One advice is don't get intimidated by it, right? So don't think like it is something very complex, very difficult to do. Uh, it does require some time to develop your skill, but so does everything. And it is a time taking skill. You have to learn it. It is a niche art, and it is a niche technology as well. You get to work with a lot of different things, so it is not just domain based, it is technological based. So if you are a person who is actually interested in learning different facets of a technology and how it is going to be evolving, then I think performance testing is a very good space to be in.
Well, that is some really good advice. Well, thank you so much, Sandra, for sparing your time on a weekday for this conversation. I know that you have a really, really tight schedule. And but I must say that, I've been a fan of your work for quite some time now. And I'm sure you're going to get a lot more fans after this
I
episode airs. Um it was very interesting talking to you. Thank you for the candid conversation. I mean, I really loved it. There are a lot of other questions that I want to ask you, but since time is limited, we keep this episode to this much for now. Maybe we'll have another conversation. So thank you so much once again for joining the discussion today.
Thank you, Brajesh. It was lovely talking to you. I definitely, always look forward to your posts, whatever comes on LinkedIn. I definitely open it to read. There are a few people whom I really diligently follow. You're one of them. I am
Thank you.
definitely a fan of yours as well, just as likewise. And it's great to see that people like you, there's Abhijit Vaikar, there's Rahul Verma, there's Pradeep Soundarajan. I mean, I definitely go through your work and I read about what you guys are doing, because it does inspire, people like me as well. Like, okay, I have done this now. This is what maybe I need to do next, or this is like, you'll give us a sort of a roadmap over there as well. So thank you so much for that.
Well, you named a few stalwarts alongside me. I mean, I'll be glad to be at their level. But thank you so much for being so kind. We'll keep talking. We'll,
Definitely.
have more conversations. So, so that was it, friends, from this episode of TesterSpeak. I look forward to seeing you on another episode of TesterSpeak. Please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Uh, we will get more guests. We will have more interesting conversations. Until then, happy testing. Namaste.